There we go. All right, guys. So again, if you're not able to stay on, I totally understand. Like I said, I want to be respectful of your time. And if you're like me, you're very calendar oriented and you might have other things to do. Totally cool. But what was I going to tell you? This gets recorded. This gets recorded. You can always kind of go back to it. I'm going to talk about IULs today, but I'm going to do it in a different way because I believe that everything needs a foundation first to give explanation and clarity when it comes to running illustrations. We are going to run illustrations on the back end of this training, but I want to talk about the IUL in reference to, what are the right ways to design it and explain it to the client. Okay. You guys on the chat box, if you notice here from our last training, I believe Howard, don't listen to Howard. That's not his cell phone number. That's my cell phone number. I like that, Howard. Good job. Hang on one second. I'm going to take care of you on that one. Whatever number he put there, he's lying to you. That's my cell phone number. And let me give you, which you guys can call me. I have no problem with it. Howard just has a little bit more availability. Let me give you Howard's cell phone number. 406-0999. There you go. Jot that bad boy down there. And a tool you guys should be able to use, right? For those of you that are licensed, you should get access to Pingboard. Have you guys all gotten an invitation to join Pingboard? Okay, on Pingboard, you have every single licensed agent there. You could just search up their name and you'll see their phone number, you'll see their email, you'll see everything. If you have not gotten an invitation to Pingboard, make sure you reach out to Sandra and get access to that because that's typically part of the contracting process. So I don't know if it was just overlooked or skipped by mistake or whatnot, but reach out to her. You could download the application on your phone. It's a pretty cool application. That'll let you see the entire hierarchy. You can see your sidelines, your downlines, you can see all of it. But you can search by name and you'll be able to see people's names, numbers, contacts, emails, everything there. If they actually fill out their own Pingboard bio, you'll see a biography on who they are. And it's a pretty cool service that TKO subscribes to. Okay, but make sure you get on that. That way, whenever I'm doing these trainings and I give you the name of the person, you now know where to go search for their contact info. Okay, let's get this bad boy started here. So IULs, if you notice from the last training, I leveraged heavily some of the other agents in the final expense world. And the reason why is because I'm going to give you full disclosure. I was never a final expense agent. I know final expense and I know how to sell it. I know the companies, but I was never a big field agent in that world. I was big in the IUL space and in the annuity space. That's like my baby. That's my playing field right there. That's the zone in the realm that I'm in. So whenever I get a chance to do IUL training, to do annuity training, it just feels like home. That's a great place for me. Okay. And TKO allows you to either run a full-fledged final expense platform or an e-commerce platform or a high sales premium financing platform or an annuity IUL platform, or mix it up. That's a big benefit with us because we have specialists for almost every field. I'm going to talk about IULs today. The biggest thing I'm going to do is give you kind of lessons that you should remember about IULs. Number one, IULs are not for everybody. Okay, they're not. If you ever came from a platform that was trying to tell you that IUL is God's gift to earth, it's a solution for every single person under the planet, they are lying to you. They are lying, okay? An IUL, however, I will tell you, will solve 80% of most middle Americans' problems if you design them and structure them properly. That's the key. You got to design them and structure them properly. So I'm going to give you analogies today that'll help you visually understand how an IUL works, okay? I want you to pretend for a moment this bucket here represents the face value of an IUL, right? What is face value? The life insurance. I want you to pretend that this bucket represents the face value of an IUL. Now I'm pouring water into this, and I want this to be a little bit back and forth. So feel free to unmute yourself and answer my questions as I ask them, okay? Because there's a logic behind why I do it this way. I want you to pretend you're pouring water into this bucket. How much water can you put in this bucket? Anybody? Don't be scared. I ain't gonna bite.
You can put as much as you can, even if it overflows.
You could put as much as to the rim, right? However, so the bigger the bucket, the more water. The smaller the bucket, you're right? the lesser the water, right? Okay. So I want you to pretend the water is the cash that you're putting into your IUL. So what does that mean? The bigger the face value, the more cash you can put into it. The lesser the face value, the less cash you can put into it. If this cash overflows, it becomes a modified endowment contract, which means you're putting too much money in this IUL, and as a result now, it becomes a MEC. What exactly is MEC in layman's terms? MEC means that the policy is now taxable. You lost the tax-free benefits, right? You probably studied about that, right? There's a term you might hear about called MEC 7. MEC 7 means that most IUL policies, most permanent policies, I apologize, permanent period, need to have contributions for at least 7 years in order for them not to become MECs. Why did the government put that in place? Because when this tax code came around, this tax code that allows this money to come out tax-free is called 7702-A, an Internal Revenue Code book code created in 1904, basically says, hey, proceeds from an insurance company withdrawn are tax-free. That's what the tax code basically says. It's what allows death benefit to be tax-free. It's what that's how it all exists, right? But if you put too much into it and it becomes a MEC, this tax code doesn't apply. They created that because way back in the day when they created the tax code, the wealth of America looked at that and said, man, I could put tax-free money in there. Bro, drop $1 million in there one time. Like, boom, or drop $1 million, boom. And so the government had to intervene and say, wait. These people are using this too much as an investment and too little as an insurance policy, because this tax code, or its original purpose, wasn't so that it could be a place for investment. It was so it could be a place for estate planning, so that the death benefit came tax-free to families. It was the only solution to estate taxes, was to give tax-free death benefit. But insurance companies looked at this tax code and said, man, let's invent an insurance product that does more than expire, like term insurance. And that gave birth to the concept of whole life insurance, permanent insurance, because now you can use life insurance as an investment, but we're going to leverage this tax code, right? I mean, if you think about it, what are we really good about doing, right? We're really good about finding loopholes with tax codes, with the government laws. We're very good about finding loopholes. So when the government created this tax code, its original purpose was so that death benefit could be tax-free. And then insurance companies found the loophole to create permanent policies. And now all of a sudden that gave birth to using insurance companies as investments. The government came in and intervened, and they realized, I can't get rid of this tax code because life insurance is the only tool on the face of this earth that can help with estate planning taxes. It's the only tool that will transfer an asset over tax-free and defend against estate planning. So I can't get rid of the tax code, but I can implement rules. One of those rules was the modified endowment contract rule. They said, if you're gonna put money in here and you want it to be tax-free, you can't just do it one time. You got to put in for at least 7 years. At least 7 years. That's why you might hear this term. You might see this in illustrations where you see MEC 7. You got to contribute for 7 years if you want this to be tax-free. If you can't contribute for 7 years, this becomes taxable. So whenever you hear the concept single premium whole life, single premium IUL, single premium one-time drop-in, automatically it becomes a MEC. Automatically it becomes a MEC. There's no ands, ifs, or buts. And here's something you need to know about MEC. Once a policy becomes a MEC, it's forever a MEC. Once it spills over, you can't go back. You can't go back. It's spilled over. It's now a MEC. Now all of those dollars are taxable as earned income. There's no more ability for tax-free. Does that make sense before I keep on, or any questions? Okay, let's keep going. Now, the bucket, right? The bigger the bucket, the more money you can put in. The other thing you need to understand is the bigger the bucket, the more the bucket costs, right? You go to Walmart right now and buy a half a gallon bucket versus a 5 gallon bucket. There's a different price for that bucket. Same concept with insurance. The bigger the bucket, the bigger the insurance policy, the more the cost. Okay, so When you're running into illustrations, you're going to hear this word a lot, target. Target premium. Every illustration will have it. It's on IULs, it will. On whole life, it won't say target premium, it'll say something else. If for my experts in there, if you can refresh my memory on what it says instead of target premium for whole life, let me know. But it means basically the same thing. But target, let me explain what target is. Okay. And I like using this analogy because it gives a lot of clarity to it. Okay. Target is the insurance company's way of telling you what, in their opinion, is the healthy amount of money that can go into this policy, where a portion of it will cover the cost of that bucket, cost of the insurance, and the other portion of cash will go into the cash accumulating account, where that's where you're going to earn interest. It's the insurance company's way of saying, if you put this number based on these interest rates, this number will help cover the cost and help you grow some cash. For visualization purposes, pretend target is the middle of the bucket. Just pretend target is the middle of the bucket. That's your middle ground number. Now, why do I do that? Here's why I do it. Visually, you'll understand. Okay. If this is target, then this number here is minimum. You'll see that number in an illustration, minimum pay, minimum pay. That number is always less than target. It's always less. What exactly is minimum? It's almost like making an interest-only payment on a loan. It's almost like saying, hey, what is the cost of this bucket without any cash going into the cash accumulation? Like, I'm going through rough times this year. Things are tough. I need to make a minimum payment to at least keep the bucket alive, pay my premiums for the insurance, knowing that none of my money is going to go into the cash. If you have a 30-year loan, right, and your mortgage payment is $1,000 a month, I'm going to ask this question to you so you understand. If you have a mortgage, a 30-year mortgage, and the payment on that loan is $1,000 a month, this is not a rhetorical question, it's a real question. How long does it take for you to pay off that 30-year loan? I think Tanisha was trying to say it, but she's muted, so I can't hear her.
30 years.
30 years, right? Logic. It's a 30-year mortgage. $1,000 payment is what the schedule says. It'll take you 30 years. What happens if you pay $1,500 instead?
You're putting it down half the time.
Yep. You pay it off faster. You pay less interest, right? Yeah, and that, why? Because what happens is the $1,000 covers the principal interest requirement, but that extra $500 goes directly towards principal, which cuts down the balance and increases by default your equity in the house, right? What happens if you pay $500? Think about it. You get a $1,000 mortgage, you only pay $500. What happens?
You're going into
eventually default.
foreclosure.
Yeah, that's right. You eventually default. You eventually default because you're not paying enough to cover the interest and principal, and you lose the house. Right? Back in the day, there used to be this mortgage called the pick a payment loan, where you could pick what you wanted to pay. You can make an overpayment, $1,500. You can make a principal interest payment, $1,000, or you can make an interest only payment, which was $500. If you make an interest only payment, you're doing nothing to chip away at the balance of the mortgage. You're just paying the interest that the bank is charging you for loaning you that money for that year. So when you make a minimum payment in an IUL, it's kind of the same thing. You're saying, hey, I just want to pay the cost of insurance for that year. I want nothing of my money to go towards the accumulation of this policy, right? Now, what is all this extra space here? This extra space is room for overfunding, meaning room for you to put more money than the policy needs. The policy is telling you we only need target, but you're going to put more money in it. And all of this money that you put over avoids the cost of insurance and goes directly into the cash accumulation, and it's going to earn interest based on whatever the index is paying on that given year, right? here's something I need you to understand. Agents are going to get paid based on target. So whatever your contract level is, like if you're writing Allianz at 100% contract, you're going to get 100% of whatever this number is. But Tony, what about all this extra overfunding? You get maybe like a 1%, 2%, nothing crazy. Pretend it's zero for all intents and purposes, right? But is it the right thing to do? Some policies you need to overfund it. You need to overfund it because here's the thing I need you to understand. Regardless of any investment you choose, okay? What's two things that an investment needs in order to make money, apart from putting money in? Time and an interest rate, right? Why do you need time? Somebody give me an answer to that question. It's not a rhetorical question. It's a real question. Why do you need
Compounding.
time? Compounding interest. More time you give your money to compound, the more opportunities it has to double and double and double and double, right? The rule of 72, Albert Einstein says you can double your money. Rule of 72 tells you how, if you divide the interest rate by 72, it'll tell you how many years it takes to double. So, for example, 72 divided by 7 means that it takes 10 years, a little bit over 10 years, for you to double your money. So if you got $100,000 in there earning 7%, after 10 years, it should be 200,000. Another 10 years, the 2 goes to 400,000. Another 2 years, the 4 goes to 800,000. Another 10 years, the 800,000 goes to 1.6 million. You get my drift? Okay. So the more time you give your money to compound, the more opportunities you have to really max out 5x, 6x the return. The less time you give money to compound, the more money you physically have to put in to make a dent. Like, think about it like this. You tell a 20-year-old to start saving for retirement. Most people advise a 20-year-old to do what? $100, $200. Why? Because they got so much time before they hit retirement. They could compound that a lot, right? But if you sit with a 55-year-old and you tell them to start saving money and they only have 10 years left before they have to retire, are you going to tell them $100, $200 is going to get them to retirement? No. You're going to tell them, listen, we don't have a lot of time. I wish I had more time to compound your money, but we don't. So unfortunately, since you're not letting your money work for you time, you're going to have to put in the extra work. You need to put in $1,000 to $2,000 a month because you don't have time to compound. You see, the more time you give your money, the more your money works for you. Less time you give your money, the more you got to work. So how does that correlate to this? Overfunding is an opportunity to catch up. Overfunding a policy is an opportunity to catch up because you don't have as much time as you wish you had. Which means here's a rule I want you to write down. I've lived and breathed this rule for over a decade. Okay, it's just a simple formula. I'm very structured, guys. If you give me a path, I just tell me how to follow it, I'll follow it. I'm not a variable person. I'm such a black and white person when it comes to that kind of stuff. Anybody from 34 years of age and under, when I write an IUL for them, I'm going to write it right at target. Right here at target. Because 35 and under, they still have time to compound. A kid's IUL, target. A 20-year-old's IUL, target. A 30, 31, 32, 33, target. Once you hit mid-30s, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to start overfunding. In your 30s, I'm going to overfund by 30%. Simple, kind of easy to understand. 30s, 30%. In your 40s, I'm going to overfund by 40%. In my 50s, what percentage do you think I'm going to overfund by? 50%, right? Simple to understand. I'm going to overfund by 50%. And every time you overfund, you're choosing to put more money than the policy needs because you need that policy to catch up. It has less time to compound, right? Now, let me correlate this to actual premium dollars. Let's pretend that the premium is $3,600 a year. That's $300 a month. This is a 40-year-old. So I need to overfund it. I need to overfund by 40%, right? So 3,600 times 1.4 means the client really needs to put, because he's a 40-year-old, really needs to be putting in $5,040. The illustration needs to say the target is 3,600. The difference between 3,600 and 5,000, right? If you subtract that difference, which is $1,400, is extra money. It's overfunding. Because that client who's in his 40s only has about 20 to 25 years, maybe 30, to compound his money, which is a lot less time than a 20-year-old who has 50 years to compound their money. So less time, more overfunding. More time, less overfunding needed because money has time to work. Any questions about that analogy that I just gave? Had anybody ever learned that before? Been taught that before? Explained the logic behind it? No. Okay. This is the part about the industry that I take a lot of passion in. Okay. This is the part about the industry that I like. Man, I want to teach everybody how to understand this, because let me tell you something. You come across a 40-year-old and you run them an IUL policy and 100% of their money goes into Target, and you don't talk to that person about putting more money in the future to overfund, and they just stay there, that policy at best will be just a return of premium policy. At best, they might get back, if the market does well, they might get back what they put in. They might. You do a Target policy on a 50-year-old, you do a policy on a 50-year-old at Target, and you don't talk to that person about overfunding, and they think they're going to retire, you should go to jail. You as an insurance agent should go to jail if you're soliciting this as a cash accumulating account. It won't. It point blank won't. There's so many things working against it. The cost of insurance is super high because they're older. They don't have enough time to compound their money. And if all you're doing is collecting $100, $200 a month on a 45-year-old, 50 plus, like, it's just not the right answer. It's not going to do what you're telling them it's going to do. The illustration doesn't even look that attractive, to be honest with you. So my rules are simple. And again, you can take my rules for face value. Everybody here is independent. Everybody here has their own errors and omissions. VPs, you have to have your standard in your organization as to what you want to be known for. That's your job, to be able to express that culture to your organization, right? The way I've always operated in my personal practice, and as many people that have allowed me to personally train them, target number is for people in their mid-30s or less. Once you hit that 34 bracket, overfund by 30%, 40-year bracket, overfund by 40%, 50-year bracket, overfund by 50%, and a 6-year-old, I'm not even touching an IUL. I'm not even touching it. Now, Tony, do you sell an IUL to everybody? No, I don't. If I'm selling someone in their mid-40s an IUL, it's because they want cash accumulation. That's the biggest benefit about being a broker, right? Everything to me is, Mr. Client, what's your objective? What are you trying to accomplish? And here's how I tell them this. I go, look, this product has 3 things that it does. It's got death benefit, it's got living benefit, and it has cash accumulation. If you had to prioritize those 3 things, which one's most important to you? You'd be amazed how many people will tell you, listen, it's not cash accumulation. I got other assets. I'm good. I got businesses. I got other investments. I like the fact that this insurance won't expire. I like the fact that this will leave a legacy behind. I like the fact that it's not term insurance, ... Really? Well, Mr. Client, have you ever heard of a GUL? Because a GUL will take all of your money and focus on the death benefit and the living benefit, and it doesn't even concern itself with the cash accumulation. Matter of fact, with a GUL, you'll get more insurance than you will on an IUL. I just recently had this happen last week. Client's looking to put $250 a month away. We're running IUL numbers. I think it was like 220,000 that the client was able to get. I had a good heart-to-heart with the person. Hey, what are you trying to accomplish? What do you want? Right? Guess what? Cash accumulation was the last on his list. He didn't give a damn about cash accumulation. It was all about legacy, legacy, legacy. I go, you know what? What if I take that $250 and I put it into a product that gives you more insurance that you cannot outlive? I ran a GUL quote to 105, $369,000 he got for the same money. So if he gets an IUL, 220. If he gets a GUL, 365. Which one do you think he's going to get? Duh, there it is. Not to mention the fact you as an agent get paid more. Because now all of that money is pretty much target versus a part of that money being target, because you better believe if you told me IUL, I was still going to overfund. And then we get paid on target, not overfunding. The problem is in this industry is that there's a lot of insurance agencies, they teach all their agents to run everything at target, run everything at target, run everything at target. Why? Because they care more about their wallet than they do doing the right thing for the client. And that's just not in me, not me, at least. I'm not going to say that we're not going to accidentally recruit somebody one day that's going to think that way. I'm going to say to you that at some point or another, everybody has to meet their maker, and everybody has to look them square in the face and respond for their actions. I want to go to sleep at night with a clean conscience. I want to make sure my clients have the best possible opportunity. And if I think in abundance and I don't think about the commission and I think about the mission, I'm always going to be helping people. I promise you, God will put you more and more and more people in front of you than you could have ever imagined, because you're doing right by them. That's an IUL. Is an IUL a great vehicle? It is, but you got to know how to structure it the right way. You got to know how to structure it the right way. I think I saw Armando unmute himself. Did you want to say something, bud?
Yeah, I just want to kind of just add a little more to what you're already explaining on, where at a previous company, I had a guy who actually basically got a bunch of clients were being told that, they weren't doing right by their policies, because you come across agents that do know how to structure policies, and then they can, expose you and say, hey, this policy wasn't done correctly. Or now this past agent had to, go to court and all kinds of stuff, and basically lost his license, now can no longer ever write business ever again. Not only that, they're going to go into your business and see all the other previous policies. It's going to open a can of worms. So IULs and stuff are a great vehicle, but again, if you don't know how to do them, you're putting the client in, you can potentially put the client in a bad spot. So it's better to learn and do it the right way, so you have that insight and be able to help the client.
Correct. It's true. Listen, in the insurance world, you're guilty until proven innocent. In the insurance world, I'm not trying to scare you, but I've been at this long enough to know, if you're not documenting what you're doing and validating why you're doing it, you have to prove why you did it later in the future. And clients love to have memory loss. I don't remember you telling me that they did this. I don't remember did it. Wait, hold up. Look, I have notes. I wrote it down. I documented it. Boom, boom, boom. For example, if a client tells me, I do a presentation, term, GUL, IUL, they're in their mid 50s, 60s, and I don't think the IUL is the right solution. I think the GUL is the solution. And they're like, nope, I want the IUL. Nope, I want the IUL. Nope. Okay, Mr. Client, I don't recommend it based on what you're trying to accomplish, but I'm going to sell it to you. However, I need to put a document down that I didn't make this recommendation and this was your choice to obtain. I need you to sign this before I submit the application, because if not, I cannot add you into my book of business. Because one thing I'm going to tell you is this: I'm good and I'm better than most. You want me in your book of business, but I need this document. Tony, do you really talk to them like that? Yes. Yes. The moment you start to realize that you're of value to them more than they are of value to you, you start to respect your business. You start to respect your business. Just like I can selectively choose who I want to work with in this industry as an agent, I can selectively choose who I want as a client. And so I give that. If I'm replacing business, guys, let me tell you something about replacements. If you're replacing business, make sure you have a copy of what you're replacing, and you can justify why you're replacing it. You have to put the client in a better place, not a negative place, not a lateral move. It has to be a better place. You want the biggest place for risk, a biggest place for an audit, replacement of business. And I replace a lot of business. So I'm not telling you to steer away from it. I'm saying before you replace it, make sure you have a copy of what they have and you can prove that you're putting them in a better place. When you deal with permanent insurance, whole life, IULs that have cash accumulation, if the illustration you have is older than 2 years, you need to contact the carrier that they have that policy with and request what's called an in-force ledger. An in-force ledger is nothing more than give me an illustration of where this policy is today and what you project it to be in the future. And then you can run a competitive analysis. Then you can do a comparison. You know how many times I come across IULs and I'm like, bro, this was designed horribly. And let me show you why. Boom, 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 boom. And a lot of it has to do with this right here. A lot of it gets solved right here. Overfunding. Overfunding. They don't overfund. They run it right at target. They run it right at target. They run it right at target. Okay. Now, let me shift gears. I'm giving you the visual analogies, and then I'm going to show you the illustrations that validate this. Okay. I'm going to show you the illustrations that validate this. Let me show you something else now. With IULs, you have this option when you're running the illustration called increasing death benefit, right? Again, here's your bucket, right? Here's target. This is overfunding. Let's say this bucket happens to be $2,400 a year, right? That's target premium. That's the cost of this bucket. This bucket is giving you $500,000 of insurance. That's what it is, okay? I love to run illustrations at an increasing premium, increasing death benefit. I'm sorry. Why? I want the bucket to grow like this. Because the bigger the bucket, the more what? The more cash you can put in. The bucket is growing, therefore the amount of cash you're putting in can increase. When I run illustrations on IULs, I tend to increase the contributions every 5 years. I want to show the client what the potential is of this. So just because the client tells me that today they can afford $200 a month, I'm not trying to tell the client you're going to only put $200 a month in. I want to show the client, look, do $200 now. 5 years from now, do 300. 5 years from now, from then, do 400. 5 years from then, do 500. But increase your contributions. But if you're going to increase your contributions, I got to make sure that the bucket allows for you to put more money in. Because what I cannot allow is for them to fill up the bucket all the way, and then it pours out and becomes a modified endowment contract. I can't let that happen. When you increase, you're also giving the client the peace of mind of knowing that if they pass away, they're going to leave behind the cash and the death benefit. If you run it level, okay, you'll notice that the cash is growing, but the death benefit stays the same. So the cash is growing, death benefit's the same. Cash is growing, death benefit's the same. The person passes away, they're only going to get the death benefit. What happens to the cash? It stays with the insurance company. That's like a whole life policy, not an IUL. But Tony, do you only run it at level? No, there are times that I run it at level. Typically, it's an older client in their 50s because I want the cost of insurance to be a little bit controlled. Because remember, as the insurance grows, so does the internal cost of the policy. So there are times that I run at level, but not often. Not often. And 90% of my illustrations, I show the client, I give them, I tell them, I go, look, this is what would happen if you put more money in the future. You don't have to, but if you did, this is what it would do. You don't have to, again, Mr. Client, you don't have to, I repeat, you don't have to. You can stay with your initial dollar amount, target, right? You know what I tell the client? I tell them don't go under target. Even though there is a minimum number that they could put, I'm not going to give them that as an option. Because if you give them that as an option, they're going to take it. If you give them that as an option, I promise they're going to take it. For example, you ever loan money to somebody and you tell them this, you tell them, look, pay me back every month, right? But you know what? If you need to, pay me every other month. I guarantee you they're going to take the every other month option. I guarantee you they're going to take the every other month option. They're going to take that path that doesn't affect them as much. They're going to take that path. They're not going to pay you on the schedule. They're going to pay you on the every. If you give them the option, they'll take it. But if you tell the person, nope, listen, I need you to pay me every month on the first, there it is. That's our agreement. No ands, ifs, or buts. That's what they know they can do. That's what they know they can do. But if you present them a way out, they're going to take it. So when I talk about the IUL of the client, I don't talk about the minimum number. I know it's there. And if I do my job as an agent and I review with them every single year and I take a look at their finances every single year, I can open up that option when I think it's needed. But but I don't open it to them and show them that it's there because they will take it. So when I tell them, Mr. Client, this number here, this is your minimum number. You can never go lower than $200 a month. You can never go lower. You can put more, but you can never go lower. And then, man, something really bad happened in their life, Mr. Client. You know what? I'm going to try to do a solid. I'm going to contact the carrier, see if we can make some adjustments. And then I'll talk about the minimum number. But I never bring in the minimum number. I never bring in the minimum number. Most of my illustrations, I show the client putting more and putting more and putting more and putting more and putting more. Not every year, but like every 5 years. Every 10 years, you know, you know, if they're super young, I'll show it like every 10 years, right? If they're older, I show it every 5 years, right? but I increase it. And I make sure I tell them you don't have to, but if you do, look what happens. Any questions about that? Because the next thing I want to do is actually start running some illustrations to validate these concepts that I just showed you. I have a question. Let me see. I see a question here. And to increase the payment, the client has to call to increase, or it's automatically done. They call you. That's another thing. The client never calls the carrier. I'm your agent. You call me. You call me. Now, here's something I will tell you. Can they increase their contributions every single month if they wanted to? Yes, every single month. And every single month you're filing paperwork. I don't want that. I'm telling you right now, I don't. I tell my client this, I go, look, you can make changes every year. Once a year on your anniversary, you can make a change if you want to make it. But if you're not going to make it, then you got to wait another year. Because I also have to respect my time. Like, I'm not going to be filling out paperwork every single month to increase, decrease, increase. Hey, this month I want to put an extra $50 in, and then next month I want to put an extra $100 in, and then the month after that I want to. No, boo boo, sorry. I got a lot of people to help, a lot of families to help, a lot of people to train. We can make those changes once a year. Once a year. Now, if you want to run a business where you're constantly making changes, that's your prerogative. That's me. I won't. Just like I won't collect checks. I want to make my monthly payment via check. Sorry, not me. You know why? Most companies when you make a payment via check, number one, they're not going to advance your commission. Number one. Number two, you're going to be dealing with a constant chargeback pay. Because if they pay 1 day late, if that check arrives 1 day late, they claw back your chargeback, and then they collect the check, and then they pay it again. So it's either automatic every single month. If you have to pay manual, then you're going to have to pay this semi-annually or annually, but monthly is not going to happen. Most companies don't even.
Tony?
I'm sorry.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but on top of that too, usually when you do by check or money order, they do it quarterly. So the client's going to get a statement quarterly, and they're going to freak out calling you. Why am I going to pay $300 a month? I thought it's $100 a month, and they're freaking out. It's like, no, you just send it $100 every month, but they're going to keep on getting this. So it's, mentally they're going to be freaking out the whole time.
Correct. Which that led to what I was going to tell you. Most companies don't even allow you to send in a check on a monthly basis. At a minimum, it's quarterly. Now, I will say there's one company in our platform that does accept a monthly check. One, it's NLG. And again, I don't let my clients do that. I will not let my clients pay by check. Look, let me tell you something as well too. Forget cash accumulation, forget chargeback, forget maintenance. If that person dies, if that person passed away, and for whatever reason they didn't mail that check out because they were running a couple of days late, and they're over that 30-day grace period, like there's too much risk there. So the payment's going to come out automatically every month, automatically every month, automatically every month. Otherwise, I'm sorry, I'm not going to be your agent. And I have no problem doing that. Not because I'm arrogant about it, but because I respect myself as a business professional, and I respect my clientele that have respected those rules that I've put in place. Why am I going to sway on one other person and take on that liability? I don't want it. That's just me. You guys can, I'm giving you the advice. Okay. Now, if there's no other questions, I'm going to do one more presentation, which is everything I've done right now is like internal training for you guys. So you understand how IULs work, understand the difference of target and everything like that. I don't do this stuff to clients. I'm going to do my presentation on what I show to the client, and then I'm going to start running some illustrations. You guys good with that? Yes, 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 yes. Okay, good. So remember, this is internal. This is this is training that I do to give you the ability to understand how it works. Now, this is my client-facing presentation. This is where, I've done like a 50-foot overview of how IULs work. They're interested. They want to know more. Okay, great. They've given me okay, you want to know a little more in detail? Here's more in detail. This is not the 50-foot view. This is the 5-foot view, right? This is the 5-foot view of how an IUL works. I'm going to explain to them first the 3 ways money grows. All right, Mr. Klein, if you want to know this investment, you have to know how all investments work. There's 3 ways that money can grow. First way, fixed. 80% of America puts their money in a fixed environment. They put it in a fixed environment because, let me ask somebody here. Jen, can I ask you to unmute yourself and you can participate with me?
Sure.
Perfect. So the first way people put money in is they put it into a fixed strategy. 80% of America puts it fixed because when they put it there, they feel what?
Safe.
They feel safe. Most people feel very safe when they put their money in the banks because the money's there. That's the positive. The downside, unfortunately, is that are you making a lot of money at the bank?
It's slow.
Not never. You're making 0.0035%.
That's a lot.
Right? If inflation right now is at 4.2%, you're safely losing the value of your money. But this is where 80% of America puts their money. 15% of America will invest in the stock market. And the market goes up and it goes down and it goes up and it goes down. I look at that and if I'm a cardiologist, that's a heart attack, right? Like that's what's going on with your money. They're going here in hopes to retire up here with the risk of ending up down here. Do people go here for safety, Jennifer?
No.
No, they go here for the rate of return. The potential of making a lot of money, right? Now, 5% of America, which happens to be the wealth of America, love to invest into a strategy that's called indexing. Have you ever heard of index funds before, Mr. Klein? Like the S&P 500, the Dow, any of that? Most people say what?
No.
Nope. Index funds is a way for you to make an interest rate based on a collective group of investments, but only when those investments are doing well. So there's a term, there's one particular very popular index fund called the S&P 500. It's the top 500 companies, the top 500 company, publicly traded companies. And that index is an average of all 500 of them from one year to the next. Now, when you invest into an index fund, what you're saying is, if this is your money, if the market goes up, I'm going to go up, but I'm going to go up to a limit. I'm going to hit this ceiling. So let's say the ceiling is 12%. If the market goes up and it's at 16, you're not going to make 16. You're going to make how much, Jennifer? 12%. Right? You're like, man, I really wish I made 16, but I only made 12. Why am I giving up this money on the top end? You're giving up the money on the top end because if the market goes down, you're going to hit a floor of 0%. So if the market crashes and everybody lost 20%, how much did you lose?
0.
0. So you give up a little bit on the top end for the peace of mind of having a floor guarantee, which means if the stock market goes up, you go up with it to a limit. If the market crashes, you're going to stay where you last left off. You don't have to play catch up. And then when the market recovers and comes back up, because it always does, you're going to go up from where you last left off. So your money goes up like a staircase. You know what's great about these strategies? Every one of my clients that are here, if they call me when the market crashes, I'm not avoiding the phone call. I have no reason to avoid it. They're going to freak out. Oh my God, the market crashed. Tony, what am I going to do? Nothing. Don't worry about it. You're not going to lose anything. Everybody's losing money. Your neighbors are losing money. Guess what? Listen, go buy some ribs, keep barbecuing. You didn't lose a penny. You're not making anything this year, but at least you didn't lose anything. You know why the wealth of America loves to go here as well too? Apart from that strategy, when you operate with index funds inside of investment grade insurance companies, are you ready? The money comes out tax free. Tax free, Mr. Klein. Mr. Klein, Jennifer, you get paid every 2 weeks, don't you?
Yes.
And you get paid a W-2, don't you?
Yes.
You ever looked at your W-2 to see how much Uncle Sam keeps before they pay you?
More than I want to give.
It's a big number, isn't it?
Mhm.
I mean, most people, it's like $300, $400, $500 a pay cycle. Let me ask you a question, Jennifer. How different would your life be if you got to keep all that money every single month?
It'd be nice.
I mean, that's sometimes someone's mortgage payment, car payment. I mean, it's a big chunk. Well, the wealth of America understands that, and they want all of their earnings to be completely tax-free. So that 6%, 7% that they're earning, it's more like earning 9 and 10% because you're not having to pay taxes. So now that you know how all three of these strategies work, let me talk to you about that LERP that we talked about. LERP is an acronym, Life Insurance Retirement Plans. That's how I present an IUL. It's a LERP, Life Insurance Retirement Plans, okay? So let me talk to you about that LERP that you were interested in learning about. Pretend there's a bucket right here. And in this bucket, you get to put however much money you want. Knowing that the money in this bucket has the safety of the bank, because you get a 0% floor guarantee, has the market potential of the stock market up to a limit of about 12%. But because it's managed by an investment grade insurance company, it's tax-free, and in certain states, it's creditor safe, which means you can't be sued, garnished, or levied against that money. You know what's what most people typically tell me right now? This is what they tell me, Jennifer. What's the
Catch.
What's the catch? What's the catch? That seems too good to be true, Tony. What's the catch? And you're right, Mr. Client. There's no such thing as a perfect investment. There's none. Everything has a pro and a con. I want to make sure you're educated so you can make a properly informed decision and you know the good and the bad and the ugly of this. Here's the catch. You see this little spigot right here? This little spigot is going to take some of your money that you put in there and put it into this other bucket. Now this bucket is insurance. Let's just say it's 500,000 of insurance. But what kind of insurance? Renter's insurance, mortgage insurance, car insurance? No. You ready? It's life insurance. And it's living benefit insurance. You don't know what living benefits are, but I'll explain it in a moment. You're paying, the money you're putting in here, some of that money is going to fall into this bucket and you're going to get something for it. You know, Mr. Client, when you put money in your 401k, some of that money falls into a fee that your advisor collects, and the advisor doesn't give you anything for it. Not even advice. I mean, when's the last time you talked to your 401k advisor? Matter of fact, do you know his name? Don't worry, I'll wait. Okay, so here, you're at least getting something for it. What you're getting is insurance. And what that is this: if you pass away unexpectedly, your family's gonna get $500,000 of life insurance plus whatever cash is there. You don't leave that behind. You leave them both. That's a death benefit. In the same token, though, I'm going to give you living benefit. Mr. Klein, is there a higher probability of you developing a medical illness versus passing away prematurely, like a cancer, stroke, a heart attack, or a horrific car accident that leaves you paralyzed, right? There's a lot higher probability that something happens to you and you're still here versus something happening and you die. Well, living benefit says if any of those things happen, instead of tapping into your savings, which the goal of that money was retirement, you can tap into this insurance instead while you're alive. That's why it's called living benefits. You can take it when you need it. So this is still maintaining its original objective, which is what? Savings, future, retirement, right? You see, Mr. Client, this type of product gives you, hang on, let me put this bucket back. I apologize. I just ran out of space. So this type of product gives you what I like to call perks. Well, what are perks? Number one, protection. This money's creditor safe. That's protection. This insurance protects you in the event of a death or a sickness. That protects your family. This account gives you the access to the money in the event of an emergency. What I mean by that is this: if life happens and you need to tap into the money before you hit retirement, this bucket does not follow the 59.5 rule that 401k has. And that 59.5 rule says if you tap into this money before retirement, you pay a penalty. Here, you don't pay a penalty. This type of bucket can be used for retirement planning. This type of bucket could be used for college savings for kids. This type of bucket could be used for neither of those two, and it could just be for whatever type of savings you want. Because if you just want to, if you right now historically put $200 away in your savings account, right? Jennifer, you put $200 away this month, January. You put $200 away in February. You put $200 away in March. You've now put $200 away 3 months in a row. You've got $600 in there. If you passed away the next month, how much do you leave your family with?
600.
600. If you put $200 away here, January, $200 away here, February, $200 away here, March, and then you passed away, what do you leave your family?
In the 401k? You mean in a 401k? I leave them nothing.
Right here.
Oh, the 500k.
500,000. So you get all these perks. What's the negative? I'll tell you right now. Number one, this is not a short-term vehicle. This is a vehicle where you have to commit to pay yourself first. This is a vehicle where you care more about your last name than your first name. When I'm talking about long-term commitment, I'm talking about at least, the government says 7 years, right? AKA MEC 7. I say 10 years at least. 10. This is a pay yourself first, not have an immediate gratification. And the reason why a lot of people don't do this nowadays is because people want an immediate gratification product. Well, the Wealth of America understands generational wealth and long-term savings. So this is a long-term investment, number one. And number two, you have to medically qualify for this insurance. If your health doesn't allow you to qualify for this insurance, if you can't have this bucket, you can't have this one. And if you want this one, you have to have that one. Make sense? You want to know the types of companies that I'm dealing with that play in this world? I'll tell you right now, Mr. Client. We're talking about companies like Allianz. We're talking about companies like Nationwide, Prudential. These are some of the top rated companies in the market space. Right? Mr. Client, are you familiar with Disney World? Right? Walt Disney. Do you know he opened up the park in Florida, leveraging this type of a plan for himself? Mr. Client, do you know John McCain, who ran for president? He funded an entire campaign for presidency leveraging this type of plan right here. Mr. Client, do you know J.C. Penney survived the Great Depression leveraging this type of plan right here? You know, a 401k has only been around since 1978, but this has been around since 1904. This is where the Wealth of America loves to put their money because it's tax-free, creditor safe, and you can tap into it before retirement. Because let's be real, most people don't want to retire after 60. They would love to retire in their 50s if they could. This vehicle gives that as a solution, but you got to think long-term, which means, Mr. Client, my clientele look at me like wifey material. I am not side chick material. I'm not here to be here 1 minute and then not the next. I'm here long-term. I'm here long-term. So if this is something that you want to make sure you have in your portfolio, my question to you is, do you know how much insurance you need? And do you know how much money you can afford every month into this strategy? Mr. Klein, do you have any questions? What would you like to do next? That's my 2 buckets presentation. So if you guys all remember the hustle, right? You show your term, you show your GUL, you show a LERP, right? That's very like 50-foot bird's eye view. If someone says, man, I really like that permanent policy, but tell me more how it works. This is a much more detailed explanation as to how it works. This is that 10-foot view. Now, when someone says, I really like this, I want to put $200 a month away there. I think I need $500,000 of insurance. You know what I'm going to do? Number one, I'm going to do a dime analysis to find out how much actual insurance they really need, right? Debt, income, mortgage, education, right? You can watch one of the videos I have there on dime. And then I'm going to do a budget. I'm going to actually take time to do a full-blown budget with the client. How much money comes into your house, how much money comes out of your house, because just because they say they want to do $200 a month doesn't mean that they can afford it. Sometimes you do a budget and you're like, bro, Mr. Client, you got $50 left over every month. I'm not taking you on for $200. So that's a chargeback waiting to happen. Sometimes you do a budget and you find out, man, Mr. Client, you got like $1,500 discretionary left over every month. Do you know that? What have you been doing with that money? Blowing it, more than likely, is what people say. Well, can I challenge you? Can I challenge you, instead of doing $200 a month, can I challenge you to do 400? Because here's the reality. You and I both know it doesn't matter what stock, what crypto you put $200 a month in, it's not going to retire you. You and I both know that. But 400 will get you closer to that number. And I can challenge them to do more because I've already done their budget. So after I do that presentation, that's my question. Do you know roughly how much you want to put in here, how much insurance you need? And they'll give you a number, but you want to do a dime analysis to figure out this number. And you want to do a budget to make sure that this number that they're putting in is the right one. Now, once they give you those numbers, you know, my job next is to do, schedule a follow-up. Mr. Client, here's what I need. I need about 24 hours to research the market to figure out which is going to be the best product for you. Because I have to make sure that I can stay within that $200 budget that you gave me. I have to make sure you have that type of insurance, and I have to make sure it's the right plan for you. Here's my only question for you, Mr. Client. If I can solve for this insurance and for this dollar amount, but instead of it costing you $200, it costs you $250. Are you still willing to do business with me, or are you out the window? Is it out the door? Is it no good? Right? Notice what I asked him. There's a reason why I asked it, and I'll tell you. Notice why I asked it. Okay, Mr. Client, you gave me a $200 budget. I'm going to try to fulfill this need and this savings on 200. But if I can't figure it out, if I can't solve for both of these with $200, but instead it costs me $250, it costs you $250, do we have a deal or no? I want them to tell me yes. Most people say yes. And the reason why is because I'm going to design an IUL at $200 a month, which is what they told me. but their insurance needs more than likely won't be met with that 200 bucks. That 200 bucks will probably give them 250,000 of coverage, which means they're still going to be short here. That extra 50 bucks, what do you think I'm going to do with that extra 50 bucks that they gave me permission to do? Anybody?
Term.
Now we're talking blended policies. We're talking wrap accounts. I'm going to offset with a term policy because I need to make sure when they walk away from my office, they have their savings and their insurance needs, because I do both. I don't just take care of one and not the other. That's where I sell the term. And guys, I'm telling you right now, what you just saw, that's my presentation, guys. That's been my presentation for like a decade and a half, easily. Now, let me show you one other thing, because I'm going to get into illustrations here momentarily. And I apologize that I'm going longer, but to be quite frank, I want to know from you guys, is this valuable and can I continue to go longer? Yes? Okay, good. I want to be respectful of people's time, but the reality is IULs is not something you can just knock out real quickly. Let me show you something. That 2 buckets presentation. If you're that organized person, like I'm a storyteller, so I need a dry erase board to tell the story along the way. If you notice, it's a hot mess when I'm done, like holy crap, right? If you're that person, you're like, man, I need a little bit more organization. Log into TKO's website, documents and resources. Right here, the presentations. Flip chart sales. Give me a minute, let it download. It'll take a little bit. Let it download. If you're an iPad person, you download it digitally. If you're a paper person, you can print this and laminate it. But look at one of the benefits you guys are going to have here. Watch. By the way, if you're a VP or above and you want to have these presentations, but with your logos on it, with your color scheme on it, your company name and all that stuff, my graphics designer does it. I think it's 200 or 250. I don't remember. One of those one-time price, and she'll do the sales flip chart, the recruiting interview flip chart, and the business presentation flip chart. Okay, but look what we got here. Wait a second. Make sure I don't got anything. Okay, good. I don't have it. Hang on a second. There's Dime. This is my 50-foot bird's eye view, right? Term, GUL, IUL. It's very 50-foot bird's eye view. I want to know more about that. I'm really interested in that. Okay. Ready? Didn't I just draw that? Didn't I just do that? That's a much more organized version of it, right? I mean, here's your LERP, liquid and safe, return, rate of return, indexing, tax-free, death benefit, living benefit. Here's one bucket. Here's another bucket. Mr. Klein, if you put 200 bucks a month in 1 month, 200 bucks a month in the second month, 200 bucks a month in the third month, you now have $600. If you pass away, what do you leave? 600. You get perks, protection, access to money in the event of an emergency. You don't have the 59.5 rule to worry about. You can use this money to retire for college planning or even savings. It's all there. 0% floor, 12% cap. What does this typically make? It'll make about 6 to 8% tax-free, Mr. Client, and it's creditor safe. It's there. I mean, literally what I just did on the board, there it is. And let me say this before I go run illustrations now. Practice this. You have tools in your hands, right? You have the flip chart. You have recordings. I have like 3 or 4 recordings of this on the YouTube channel. If you don't invest into yourself and say to yourself, I'm going to block off these next 3 hours and I'm going to role play this presentation over and over and over and over so I can go out there and perform it. If you don't do the front end work, don't expect the back end results. Don't expect to learn this business just from the 2 hours of training that I give every single week. No, the 2 hours is like me giving you the roadmap. Here's the road. Here's the map, right? Don't make a right-hand turn. Here's where you make a left-hand turn. But now your job is when training is done, get in the car and go take your drive. Take the drive. Go invest into yourself. Your spouse, your significant other, your kids should be calling me up because they're so stinking annoyed that they've been watching these presentations over and over and over because I keep doing them with you guys on a Saturday and a Monday night. It's not about the time you put into the classroom. It's about the time you put behind the scenes to learn these presentations. That's what's going to make you $250,000, $500,000. That's what I mean. Think about it. I just did that same presentation here that was on there. You know how many times I've done that presentation? Some people look at it and they're like, man, you just made $5,000 on a meeting that just took you an hour to do. And that presentation, da, da, da. No, I didn't make $5,000 for a 1 hour meeting. I made $5,000 because of the amount of hours I've invested in the last 18 years in mastering that presentation. So you, it seemed easy, but I've done this presentation 10,000, 20,000 times. I could do this blind. So while people were out there watching the football game and sleeping in and doing this, I was investing into my craft. I was sharpening my knife. Boom, boom. I was partnering up with people like Armando, like Caleb, like Howard, right? You know why I'm partnering up with people like that? Because iron sharpens iron. They got something to give. I got something to give. Let's sharpen each other's knives. Let's invest into it. I'm excited for Monday night because you know what? I get to hear from a different perspective of how to sell something that I'm doing, but I want to see what they're doing. They're probably doing something different. There's a nugget. There's something there I'm going to capture. And when I capture it, when I capture that intellectual property and it ends up in this dome, oh Lord, be scared. Be scared of what's going to happen next. Because I'm going to take that information, I'm going to 10x that bad boy, because that's the one thing I can tell you I value the most, intellectual property. My 5 years at Northwestern Mutual, working side by side with some of the best investors, some of the best advisors. My 5 years at PHP, working with some of the best builders. Be very scared of intellectual property, but the intellectual property can only be valuable to those who take this information and then choose to rinse and repeat, practice, drill, rehearse, practice, drill, rehearse, learn how to use the sword. Don't just sit there for an hour how the sword works. Learn, take that sword now behind the scenes and work with it, manipulate it, move it, master the craft. Because then you can come back and be like, mentors, even though I like you or even though I don't like you, look what I learned. Explosive, right? Does that make sense? Hopefully it does. That's the little bit of motivation I'm going to give you guys, because I like to give more substance than motivation. But let's get into some illustrations. Now that you understand the behind the presentation side of it, right? I'm going to use, let's see here. Let's use Allianz. It's the best thing you guys can do for this industry. I'm going to tell you right now, very best thing you can do for this industry. Okay. Duplicate yourself. Want to get back to the community, duplicate your training, duplicate your efforts, build yourself a massive, massive organization that knows how to do these presentations. You can't beat, the best producer in the world will never beat a builder who refuses to stop building. Never, never, ever, 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 ever. We did 3.5 million last year. In life, 3 million in annuity, not because I know how to produce this business, but because I knew how to build and duplicate and duplicate and duplicate and duplicate. You cannot beat a builder. You can't. A producer might have a head start, but you'll never be able to beat a builder. You'll never be. Your family will thank you for it. Your bank account will thank you for it. Your legacy will thank you for it, because you're building something that's sustainable when you're no longer there. You're building something sustainable when you are no longer there. Point blank, period. All right, let's go. Let's get into this bad boy here. Products, illustrations. All right, so I am, and I apologize. Sometimes I don't share the screen with you, not because I don't want to, but because my back office login, sometimes the immediate first thing it does, it jumps into commissions, and I want to be respectful of, you know, other people's numbers and commissions and comps and stuff like that. Here we go. Let me see here. Can you guys see the Allianz screen? Right? Yes, yes. Okay, so I'm logged into Allianz. This is their illustration software. Allianz, almost like a wealth management company, guys. Their software is identical to NLG, just so you know. So if you know how to do NLG illustrations, you'll know how to do Allianz's illustrations, the exact same. Okay. They only have one product, Life Pro Advantage. It's an IUL. That's all they do. They stay in their lane. So let's do an illustration for California, because I think Maria sent me a message. She wanted me to run some numbers, right? Okay. So let's select it. We'll keep it value client, no problem. We got, let's do a 50-year-old client. So let's see here, 1972. Is that right? Perfect. 50-year-old client. Right. So 50-year-old means what? What am I overfunding by, guys? What's my rule of thumb?
50%.
50% overfund, right? So the client tells me this. The client says, Tony, I can afford $400 a month. And that means, right off rip, I'm always building this based on their budget. Okay. Yes, the dime analysis is important, but I also know that I can offset whatever shortage of insurance they still need with term insurance. But I got to build the IUL first based on their budget. So they tell me $400 a month. I know that $200 a month is going to be target. The other 200 has to be overfunding. That off rip, I know that. So what is it that I want to first do? I want to first see, the system gives me $250,000. I want to see what the target is of that. Target of that is 7,100. That's too much. I need what? What do I need to do the insurance? Come on now. Jenny, if you're talking, I can't hear you. Sorry, you're muted.
4,800.
I need to lower it. And remember, my target needs to be 2,400 because she's in her 50s. We're overfunding by 50%. She can afford $400 a month. Half of 400 is 200. 200 times 12 is 2,400. So let's drop this insurance down. Let's drop it to 100,000, which, by the way, that's the minimum for Allianz. At 100, target now is 2,800. That's pretty close. Okay, don't get me wrong. For my technical people, if you're gonna kill yourself to get right to 2,400, you're gonna struggle a little bit. I'm okay with that. That's pretty close to target. Extra $400 of premium, nothing crazy. So her IUL is gonna be 100. I know that off rip, right? Because now I'm at target. Next thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna increase death benefit, because I always do that. I'm gonna increase it until age 70. I always increase until age 70. When you put an A in front of the number, it's not policy year 70, it's age 70. Then I'm gonna add row because I need to tell the computer system what to do with the remaining years. The remaining years are gonna be level. Level from age 71 all the way to M, which is maturity, 121. That's what that means. Every insurance company is the same. Option A is level, option B is increasing. So if it doesn't say increasing or level, but it says option A or B, it's exactly the same across the board with every company. You see this guideline premium? I don't play with that. I always run guideline premium tests. I don't touch it. Some people do. You know who would probably know how to work some of this stuff even better than me? Caleb Duran. That's just his world. His mindset thinks technical. I'm not. I'm very structured. I do the same things over and over. And as long as I understand the reason and the rhyme, I'm not going to change it. So this is what I do with this. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to control the dollar amount. Now, this client told me monthly, specific amount is $400 a month. So mind you, what's the first thing I did? I figured out what the target is. Target is, I got to get target to where I need it to be, close to 2,400. I drop the insurance or I increase the insurance to get to the target that I need. So this policy realistically says, the insurance company says, hey, you really only got to pay 2,800, but we're not. We're going to pay $400 a month, which is 4,800. We're overfunding. Now here's how I designed these. She's in her 50s. So because she has less time to compound, I need her to put more money in. That's what I'm going to show her. So we're going to do 400 for 5 years, 1 to 5. Then I'm going to hit this add row button, switch this again to monthly. And instead of 400 on year 6, we're going to go from 400 to 600. We're going to go from there from year 6 to year 10. Then we're going to add a row again. Now we're going to go from year 11, we're going to do 800 in now. 800 from year 11 to year 15. So she's 50. She's now done this till she's 65. Here's something else that I do. When someone starts late in savings, I want to show them putting money away until they hit 70, not 65. So now I'm going to go from year 16 until age 70. See what I just did there? Look at the increases every 5 years, 400, 600, 800, 1200. Boom, 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 boom. Right? So I have that in there. I have I have the declared face amount. I'm already telling the system to increase the face amount. I have the dollar amounts in there. I've already verified target, right? I don't even have to see this and I know it's going to look good. So now let's do a quick view. Okay. So what do we got? We have $400 a month. I'm sorry, $400 a year for 5 years. then 600 for 5 years, then, then 800 for 3 years. And then look what happened. You see how it automatically reduced? Okay. It reduces outside of Armando, outside of Caleb, outside of Howard, outside of, I don't know who else is on here right now. Everybody else, I want to know what, if you know why it reduced. Why did the system reduce these numbers?
Because you funded it enough so that the premium went down.
Yeah, but what is the system trying to prevent?
MEC.
MEC.
Tanisha, I'm so glad you said that. Tanisha's been in training with me. The system is trying to prevent it from becoming a MEC. Remember that bucket? The system is basically saying, hey, bro, you're riding the top of the line of that bucket. I can't let this water pour over because if it pours over, it's going to become a MEC. That's common because think about it. I've already started. I started by overfunding by 50% already. It isn't like I started at target. I'm already overfunding by 50%. So I'm literally max funding what this policy has the ability to do. I don't like the client to see this because here's the reality. This is hard to explain. I can tell you guys this because you guys have already been sitting in for 2 hours with me on the reason and rhyme behind that, but the client hasn't. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to adjust it again. I'm going to go back. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep it at 800. I'm going to delete this one. I'm going to keep it at 800 until age 70. Just kind of reducing the amount that goes in there because I want the illustration to still look clean and not have so many variables. If you create variables, it's going to be confusing to them. I don't want confusion. Look at that. It's still overfunded there. So let me go back again, which is a good thing, guys. That means we're maximizing its potential. I'm going to drop this to 700. Look at that. Still can't. It doesn't even hold 700. Look at that. It's saying, yo, that's a lot of money, bro. Okay, let's do some more damage to it. Let's drop this to 650 and see what it does. And this is pretty typical when you're already hitting that overfunding of 50%. You won't see this happen when you're dealing with a 40-year-old or a 30-year-old. Boom, boom, boom. I'm okay with that. Look, there's only 1 year that's different. I'm okay with that. That's fine. Right? So notice increases, 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 increases. Look what happens to the death benefit. It starts up at 100 grand. And what's happening every single year? It's going up, it's going up, it's going up. Why is it going up though? Because I told the death benefit to increase. You know what it's increasing by? The cash value. Literally, mathematically proven the cash value. You start off at 100 grand, you grow 3,631 in cash value. Now you have what, 100 grand plus the 3,631. So you know when I show the illustration, when I show my drawing, the two buckets, how I tell the client, if you pass away, you leave the death benefit and the cash to the family. There it is. It's going up every year, dollar for dollar, based on how this cash is growing. This cash grows, so does this. This cash grows, so does this. Right? So this is year one, 4,800. This, let's pretend cash accumulation means live. Let's pretend cash value means quit. So live here, quit here. While you're alive, there's 3,600 in cash value. If you quit, how much is the insurance company going to give you? 0. Quitting means I don't want anything to do with you anymore, Mr. Insurance. I'm canceling this insurance. Give me my money. You get 0. Second year, you put in another 4,800. Now you got 7,500 in cash. But if you quit, however, I'm writing you a check for how much? 3,100 bucks. Are you getting back what you put in? No, you got back less. Mr. Client, I'm showing you that if you pull out of this vehicle early, I'm guaranteeing you, you're get back less than what you put in. Do you see how this is not a short-term vehicle? I mean, look, if you go in for 5 years, you put 4,800 in for 5 years, you put in $24,000. If you quit after that year, I'm only giving you a check back for $16,000. You lost $8,000. So I'm telling you right now, so you're not mad at me in the future. If you treat this as a short-term vehicle, you're not going to make money on this. You're going to get back less. Why are you getting back less? Because all the money you're not getting back is what was used to cover the cost of this insurance. You're buying 100,000 of insurance as a cost for that not to expire. Does that make sense what I'm explaining? Okay, now let me show it to you in the full actual illustration, because that's going to be a whole lot better. There we go. Because I can do more damage with that illustration versus the preview. I'm just going to fast forward to the actual illustrations. I'm not going to present what I do inside of those, because there's other things that I show, other pages in here, but. All right, here we go. So same thing, right? Contribution, live, quit. This is the die column or the living benefit column, right? So you put money in. If you're alive, you got 3,600. If you quit, you get 0. If you pass away or you have a living benefit need, you have $103,000 to tap into. Let's fast forward 10 years. After 10 years, you went from 4,800 to 7,200. You've totaled $60,000 is what you've put in. If you quit, I'm writing you a check for $60,910. You know what year 10 is to you, Mr. Client? That's your break even. By year 10, you know, according to this illustration, you're going to get back at least what you put in. How much did you actually have? You had 62,000, but you're only going to get back 60,000, but at least you break even. Mr. Client, this is why I tell you this is at least a 10-year commitment type product. Now, if you do more, which by the way, Mr. Client, you don't have to. You could do 4,800 all the way through. I'm just showing you what the potential is if you put more money away and you increase your contributions over the years, right? If you go in 15 years, according to this illustration, you would have put in 99,000. Mr. Client, it's worth 125,000 at that time in cash. And if you quit, how much do you get back? Dollar for dollar, the same amount you have in cash. Do you see that, Mr. Client? Do you see how in the beginning, you have more cash than what you have access to? But then on the back end, you end up getting access to 100% of the cash. That happens right around when? Year 13. Right around year 13, you're going to always get back dollar for dollar what you put in. Because on the front end, you've paid the cost of the insurance. And now the insurance company is basically saying, hey, you get all your money plus all your earnings. This is a huge asset to you now. Now it's growing on each side the same way. So 15 years in, you put 99,000 in, it's worth 125. And if you quit, I write you a check for 125. However, if you get sick, you need a nurse, or pass away, you got $225,000 to tap into, which is the initial 100,000 plus your 125. Let's fast forward again. Let's go all the way to age 70. Mr. Client, by age 70, you would have put in $145,000. You know what you have at that point in time? 239. I made you $100,000 of earnings, tax-free, in a creditor-safe environment, in a market risk-free environment, right? Now, is that a lot of money? It's not. But Mr. Client, one thing I want you to realize is you're coming to me at age 50 and you're only giving me 20 years to compound your return. So I can really only do so much. Now, if I did this, Mr. Client, on a 20-year-old, I could take this 145,000 and 5x it. I can make them 800,000. By the way, Mr. Client, do you have anyone in your family that you think would be in that bracket that I could show this to? Okay, referrals, right? Because you know what they're going to say? They're going to say, man, I wish I did something like this at that age. I wish I would have done something like this at that age. Oh my God. But Mr. Client, I'm still going to protect you now. Now, Mr. Client, let me ask you a question. Let's be real. If this is the most conservative investment you have and the highest growing investment, do you think that's going to be the first place you tap into money when you retire? Nope. You're probably going to use up your IRAs and your 401ks and your more aggressive investments first. Why? Because you're retired. You don't want the risk of losing that money anymore. So you're going to spend it. You're probably going to let this sit. And guess what, Mr. Client, after 70 years of age, you're not putting any more money in. You stopped putting money in, but look what's happening to the account. You went from 239 to 255. From 255 to 273 to 292 to 312. You're still earning interest on this, even though you're not putting any more money in. I mean, goodness, you're earning almost $25,000 a year in tax-free interest just by letting it sit there. So when you hit retirement, as long as you use your other more aggressive investments first and let this sit, when you do need this, let's say by 75, your 145,000 is now worth 312. I've doubled your money. And it is what? Tax what? Jennifer, tax what?
Tax-free.
You see how I'm engaging Jennifer and I'm asking her questions during my presentation? That's the way I do it with the client. I need them engaged. It's back and forth. And I'm doing that because I want to make sure they understand what I'm saying. If they can answer the question appropriately, that means I know they're understanding what I'm saying. If they can't answer it, that means that they've just been looking at me with glossy eyes, waiting for me to finish to tell me they don't get it. That doesn't work for me. There's no point for that. Now you got $312,000 to step into tax-free, Mr. Client. And every single year after that, look, you went from 332 to 334. That is what? 332, 334, bum, 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 bum. That's a decent, man. That's $23,000 in interest you just earned. You could take out the interest and take out and live off of $2,000 a month from there, $1,500 from Social Security. Now you got $3,500 a month you're living off of for the rest of your life, tax-free. Now, this is all contingent upon what? Your ability to put more money in every 5 years or so, increase your contributions. Do you have to? No. If you don't, will you still make money? Yes, it just won't be this much. And then you now know, Mr. Klein, that if you pull out early, you're going to get less than what you put in. And I don't want you calling me up telling me you're upset with me for it because we talked about this up front. So, Mr. Klein, my question to you is, what do you want to do next? That's how I close people. I don't say, do you want to take an application? No, I go, Mr. Klein, what do you want to do next? Because let me tell you, if you want this, I got to go to bat for you. If you want this, I got to reach out to this company with an actual application, which is an intent to purchase from you. It's like a purchase order. It's an intent to purchase application. And I got to get you qualified. Mr. Klein, I need you to understand something. This isn't just, hey, I have the money, give it to me. No, you have to qualify. This is like a members only type of a program. Wealth of America jumps into this program. You're playing now with the big boys here. You got to qualify. It's going to take me 4 to 6 weeks to get you approved. You know what they're going to look at? Your driving record. You know why? They want to make sure you don't like to drive around the interstate with a bottle on your lap. They're going to look at your criminal record. You know why? They like to make sure that you don't like to commit the kind of crimes that put guns in front of you. They want to look at your medical record. They got to make sure that your health is up to par. Why? Because the risk they're taking on with you is the insurance. You want the cash, but they're going to give you insurance from day one. So that whole process requires an application. Now, if I get you approved, I want you to understand something. My team is very good at what they do. If we get you approved, you need to act on it because that approval is not going to be there forever. Which, Mr. Klein, I want you to understand something. My team is amazing. I work with a woman by the name of Sandra Lopez. She's going to be your case manager. Howard Rabinowitz submits your applications. Tanisha Coffey. If they request something from you, the best thing you can do, Mr. Klein, respond quickly because that means they're talking to the company directly. And I don't want the company to feel like you're procrastinating. Because if they feel like you're procrastinating, they feel like you're hiding something. If they feel like you're hiding something, they're going to dig deeper into your application. And you and I both don't want that. I want them to hit that approve button as fast as possible. So if you're ready to work with my team, and if you feel like you're in a position where you deserve to work with my team, what would you like to do next? You know what they say? I want to apply. I would love to qualify. What do I got to do? I need to put it in that position. They got to feel like they need me, not I need them. If they ever feel like I need them, I'm chasing them around left and right, trying to get underwriting requirements. I'm always constantly worried about whether or not they're going to cancel or not. No. I just opened the doors to something that the Wealth of America does. I just gave you back access passes. The door is wedged open. My foot is in the door. Do you want in or not? You got to let me know now because there's other people behind you that want in. This backstage access. You don't want it? Okay, cool, no problem. Right? Go talk to your 401k advisor. See how well he does for you. But if you want to work with my team, better get ready. And yes, I approach it that way. I don't approach it with arrogance. I'm talking to you guys a little bit more arrogantly, like I'm kind of making laugh of it, but I do approach them with confidence. I do approach them with, hey, listen, this is what I do for a living. You want access to what the Wealth of America does? I didn't even charge you I didn't charge you a consultation to sit down and learn this. You just learned it. What would you like to do next? I want to apply. What do I got to do? What do I got to do? What do I got to do? Well, Mr. Klein, when we did your analysis, you needed about $500,000 of coverage, but this illustration here that I did for you only shows you at $100,000 of insurance. And I got to make sure that I protect not just you for your retirement, but your family. So what I brought here with me is a $400,000 term product that's only going to cost you about $40 a month. You remember when I asked you if you would let me go from 200 to 240 or 200 to 250? And you said yes. This is a holistic plan. This is how I take care of your insurability needs, which is me taking care of your family, your last name. But this is how I take care of your cash accumulation, which is me taking care of your retirement. Is that okay, Mr. Klein? Yes, it is. What do I got to do? Whatever I got to do, I want to apply. I leave them like that. Like they're in that. I want to apply. What the heck do I got to do? I don't want to lose out on this opportunity. It's like Black Friday special. You don't want to wait till midnight when that special ends kind of mentality. Any questions? No? Okay. Come on now. Let me do a couple things here with you. Let me show you what would happen in this exact illustration. Hang on a second, what did I just do? Let me show you what would happen in this exact illustration if you didn't overfund it, if you ran it right at target. Because you can't say something is good or bad until you have something to compare it against, right? So remember this policy, 100,000, target is 2,800. How much money was going to be on the back end? Remember, on the back end, by the time the client hits, hang on a second, policy year, by the time the client hits, let's use 75 as an example. By the time the client hits 75, there's $312,000 in there, right? Why? Because I overfunded. Let's do the same exact thing. You guys can see the screen, right? I am sharing it, right? Okay, good. Let's do the same thing, except this time, let's increase this insurance to 250,000, right? Because the client's putting in $400 a month. So the target can be 4,800. Target 7,100, that's too much. Let's run this at 200,000. Target is 56. No, let's run this at 175. Target now is 4,900. I'm close. Let's run this at 165. Target's 47. Oh, I'm close. Let's go to 170. There it is, 4,800 target. So I increased the insurance, which means what? Now I'm running it at target. Why? Because I'm a selfish advisor, right? I'm more concerned about the commission. I don't understand overfunding, whatever. But all I did is I increased this from 100 to 170,000. Remember, back end 312 with the one I originally did. This one now, let's do this one. No, let's do a quick view. 75, 273. The difference, 273 versus 312. Right now, this is assuming the market does well. This is also assuming, I mean, what interest rate are we assuming over here, right? This is ran at a dividend scale of current scenario. Let me see, I think it's 7% is what this illustrates. I'm trying to remember here. Somewhere in here. Hold up, where you at? It's ran at a 10-year. Oh, these, because it's in two different indexes. So it's ran at one at 6.68, and another one at 6.89. That's where this is illustrating, right? The reason I overfund is because I also want this. Watch, I want to protect myself. I want to protect the client too. I'm sorry, look, this is ran at 6.15. What if it doesn't perform at 6.15? What if the market drops? What if the market goes to 4.5? Right? What if the market goes to 4.5 and then I ran it at target from the beginning? Come on now. Why won't it show it to me? Hang on one second. 4.5, 4.5. Boom, 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 boom. Assumed rate, no. Ah, that's what it is. 4.5. 2. Okay. So at 4.5, if I ran it at target, 75, 215 in there. If it earned policy charges, policy loan, okay, let me look at the alternative. Hang on. So you can, I want to show you a much more detailed version of it. Reports. The reason you're overfunding is because you also want to make sure you can account for a low interest rate environment. You're projecting this to pay out at 6.5, 6.15, but what if it doesn't? What if the market actually doesn't do good? Because remember, all you're guaranteeing is a 0% floor and a ceiling cap. You're not guaranteeing the actual interest rate that it's earning. That interest rate that it's showing is based on past performance. So yes, there's a high probability it'll do that. But if it doesn't, that extra overfunding gives that cushion so that the policy doesn't lapse, it doesn't eat itself away. So for example, let me explain what I mean by that. Guaranteed alternative, okay. The interest rate dropped at 75, 145,000 is what put in. The interest rate dropped to like 2%. The client would only have 186,000. The interest rate dropped to 4%, the client would only have 215. Now this is ran right at target. They'd have more money if I overfunded, because look, this is the overfunded policy. In the overfunded policy, if the interest rate dropped to 2, right? You're looking at 238,000 out of 145 instead of 186. You see the difference? So I run it at target whenever I'm dealing with clients that are in their 20s and mid 30s. Once I get them to their mid 30s, I overfund by 30%. Once I get them into their 40s, I overfund by 40%. Once I get them into their 50s, I overfund by 50%. That extra overfunding allows the cash to grow faster, grow stronger, but it also protects from from low interest rate environments. Because if this policy, thankfully, one thing you can notice here is that even in a low interest rate environment, thank goodness, like this right here, this is a 2% interest rate environment. The client goes from 145 to 186. Thankfully, the policy is still in place. Thank God. The company's still very good about illustrating correctly, because some companies, some illustrations, the policy lapses. Like the policy doesn't last until 120. It only lasts until 80, and then there's 0, like gone. So it's not even ready for a low interest rate world. You know which carrier does that most? And I'm not speaking negative about it. I'm just speaking because I'm familiar with the illustration software. NLG. NLG's internal cost of insurance is so high that if the interest rate don't pay out the way the illustration is showing, and it drops to 3%, 2%, the policy will lapse. It'll eat itself up because it's not collecting enough money to pay just the cost of the insurance. It's just not. And so this, look what Allianz is doing. I'm even showing you a low interest rate environment. This is a 2% interest rate environment. And the client still at least makes a little bit of money, goes from 145 to 186. The death benefit is still there. That's powerful with Allianz to be able to still show that. It's saying, look, if we don't do well and you only earn 2, you're still going to make a little bit of money and you're going to have insurance. But other companies would be like, nope, 2% interest rate, there's no way this policy will last. It'll die. It'll die. That's another reason why I like to overfund. Does that make sense, or does anybody have any questions about that? Okay, so to conclude, because we can go back and forth, this is not something you're going to learn in one day. If there's anything I wanted you guys to learn about this today, is this. Number 1, the 2 buckets presentation. Number 1. Number two, how I structure policies. I determine the face value based on the target. That's lesson 1, right? Determine the face value first based on your target. Your target should be whatever the age the person is should determine the overfunding that you should do, right? So again, someone gives you a $300 budget, but they're in their 30s. That $300 a month budget should be overfunded by 30%. So to figure out the math, it's easy. You take $300. It's got to be overfunded by 30%. So only 70% of that money should be target. So 300 times 0.7 is 210 a month. 210 a month by 12 means that the target should be 2520, even though they're putting in 300, which is 3,600. So I first always do that. I want to make sure the face value matches the correct target. And if I need to sell term insurance on the side to offset the shortage, I will. That's number one. Number two, the death benefit, I always do it the same way. I'm very structured in that way. Increases until age 70 and then levels off afterwards. That's the second thing. The third is the contributions. If the client says they can afford 300, start at 300. Every 5 years, up it. Go from 300 to 450, 450 to 600, 600 to 750. Up it. Up it from 300 to 600 to 900. Do like run some different scenarios and up it every 5 years or up it every 10 years, whatever. Play around with the numbers. Those are 1, 2. I do that every single stinking time. Every time. And then when I present the illustration, I'm always going to show the live column, accumulation value, the quit column, cash surrender value, the benefit column. I want to show the client that the first 10 years, they're not going to get back the money that they put in. They need to see the risk first. If you as an agent hide the risk and then they find it without you telling them, you lose all kinds of credibility. Disclose it up front. Boom. And then wow them with the back end. Wow them with what it looks like on the back end. If you increase your contributions every 5 years, you don't have to, but if you do, this is the potential. Are you going to make money if you just do that dollar amount across the board? Yes, you will, but you're not going to be maximizing it. It's like having a Ferrari and never going past third gear, right? You can have a Ferrari, never go past third gear. Are you maximizing the potential of that motor? No, right? Turns on, makes a lot of noise. You'll get from point A to point B. You'll do okay. But if you really want to see the potential of the motor, the money you just spent, take that bad boy to 6th gear and then really run it, right? So that's the difference between keeping your contribution the same or increasing it. You have to know, but you can if you want to. It's there for you to do. I'm designing it so you can. Boom, boom, boom. That's my process every time. Mr. Client, what do you want to do next? Because let me explain to you the next steps before you tell me that answer. Next steps is we have to apply. This is a members only product. This is where the wealth of America goes. If you play in this ballpark here, you're playing with the wealth of America. To qualify for this, they got to look at 3 things, Mr. Client. Number 1, they want to look at your driving record to make sure you don't like to drive around with a bottle of whiskey on your lap. Number 2, they got to look at your criminal record to make sure you don't like to commit the kind of crimes that put guns in front of your face. And number 3, they got to look at your health record to make sure you have the health to qualify for this insurance, because you're looking at it on the back end. The insurance company is going to pay you insurance on the front end. Day 1, they got to make sure they pay out that death benefit if something happens to you. That takes 4 to 6 weeks. Now, my team that you're going to be working with, her name is Sandra Lopez, Howard Rabinowitz, Tanisha Coffey. They're going to help you with the application process and the underwriting. Let me tell you something about my team. They're good. They are good. Mr. Client, if they call you and they ask you for information, the best thing you can do is give them an answer quickly, because that means that they're talking directly with the company. And if the company feels like you're procrastinating, they feel like you're hiding something. If they feel like you're hiding something, they're going to poke and prod at your application even more than they normally would. We want them to look, ask a question, give us an answer, because all I want them to do is give you an approval. You're going into the members only world. And once you're there, as long as you're making your payments, you're forever there. But to get in, you got to cross this bridge. You got to cross this bridge. This is backstage. And I've got the door open. My foot is on the door, keeping it open, asking you if you want to come into the backstage world of tax-free income. But this door can't stay open forever. So, Mr. Client, what would you like to do? What would you like to do? No, I want to apply. I need to. Okay. Well, Mr. Client, I want you to know when we did your original diamond analysis, you needed about 500,000 of coverage. This illustration is at about 100,000. You're short 4. You see, the cash accumulation protects you for your retirement, but the insurance protects your legacy. So what I did is I took the liberty and I attached a $400,000 policy of term insurance. That's only going to cost you about $40 a month. You remember how I asked you originally when you told me $200 was your budget? If I could solve for both of these problems, but it cost $250, would you allow me? And you said, yes, this is that solution. Mr. Client, welcome to the world of wealth management. What would you like to do next? I want to apply. Let's do it. Boom. boom, boom. Take applications, submit applications, edify your back office team. Because the one thing me as a field agent that I don't want my clients calling me up asking me what's going on with my policy. I put myself in a position where I'm like, I don't know, that's not my world, but I hired the best of the best to do that. You contact Sandra, matter of fact, Mr. Client, when we submit this application, I'm going to create a group chat. In this group chat will be me, Sandra, Tanisha, and Howard. From that point forward, all communication about this application has to go through there. Because if you're just messaging me, they don't know what's going on. And if you're just messaging them, I don't know what's going on. So from that point forward, we're talking on that group chat. I'm going to have my team introduce themselves to you, okay? Great, no problem. Remember their names, Howard Rabinowitz, Tanisha Coffey, Sandra Lopez. Those are my backbones. If you ask me a question, you know what I have to do? I have to call them. And it's probably gonna take 3-4 hours before I give you an answer. Why? Because I gotta call them, wait for them to give me an answer, and then I gotta go back to you. So I'm taking you right to the source. And I say this to everybody here. As a field agent, you want that. You don't want your client to feel like you are the answer, be all, first and last of everything. No, boo-boo. No, I'm on the field. I acquire clients, my team retains clients. Acquisition, servicing. Acquisition brings in money, servicing maintains the money. And then I meet with my team once a week to go over every single policy. What's going on with them? What's going on with them? What do they need? What it is? What is that? Sometimes your client will procrastinate on things and they just need to hear you. They need to hear you get in it and be like, hey, what's going on? Do you still want this or not? The door's open. I got my foot on the door here, but I can't keep this open forever. Like, let's go. What do you want? And then they'll respond. But if you edify the right way, they typically respond to your team. I edify Sandra to the roof. Like, I make her look like she's God's gift to earth, and she'll crush me if I don't get her answers to the team, because I need the client to respond to her, not to me. Any questions? We took a lot longer than I wanted to, but to be quite frank, I think this was needed. This is recorded. You guys can always go back to it. I only asked for one thing, guys. One thing and one thing only, okay? There's going to be moments in your career where no one's watching. You're going to be able to put together these illustrations. You're going to have to decide, do I do this for my bank account, or do I do this, or do I do the right thing for the client? Do I do the right thing for the bank account? Do I do the right thing for the client? Do I do the right thing for the bank account? Do I do the right thing for the client? Right? Nobody's watching. Your integrity has everything to do with what you do when no one's watching. Your integrity has everything to do with what you do when no one's watching. And at some point in your life, you're going to have to answer for all your decisions. You know that, and I know that. You will have to answer to your maker, right? This world is funny. It has a great accounting system. God has a great accounting system. He gives to the givers and takes from the takers. And he always balances things out. My only request of you, being a part of this organization, let's always operate with high integrity and do the best that we can for the clients. I promise you, in the long run, it'll pay you tenfold. It'll pay you 20-fold. It'll pay you 30-fold. It will. And what you guys are learning, I only ask, once you learn this, go recruit a couple of the people and teach them this. Teach them this culture that we have. Duplicate yourself into other people. Help the community by 10xing how many people are on the field. Help this industry by 10xing how many people know that how to run this industry the right way. Because I look at it like that too. I'm not helping just the community. I'm also helping the agents understand how this industry can give you a lifestyle. This industry has given me a lifestyle that I could never be so thankful for. And it's only growing from there, but it only grows because I keep helping other people grow in this industry. You want to grow? Help other people grow. You want to be happy? Find ways to help people. Give me your two biggest takeaways on the Voxer. Two biggest solid takeaways. What is there right now? There's like 20 people on right now. I want to take me out of the mix. That's 19 people. I want to see 19 two biggest takeaways on the Voxer, because I need to know that information, because I need to know what hit you hard, what resonated hard, because I also want to know what didn't, that I might need to focus on in the next training. I'll stay on for another 2 minutes. You guys are free to go and enjoy the rest of your day. I appreciate you. Let's take over, right? Hashtag TKO takeover. Have a good one, guys. Bye-bye.